Hi there guys, I've put this quick video together to explain to you what you do when you are healing a client. Everybody has got the capability to heal people. You can feel it in your hands, and I'm going to show you how to enhance that ability first and then what you can do with that energy with your clients, your friends or your family. First and foremost, we need to build up your energy, and the easiest way to do this, energy comes out the palms of your hands, and if you rub them over each other, it kind of increases that power a little bit. So what I've found is a really good way of doing this is to hold one hand flat and move the other one up over your wrist and then spin them over like so and go back again, and just keep doing that movement over and over again. Now you can sit there and do that while you're watching this video, and once you've done this probably for about 15-20 seconds, you're going to notice that there is an energy between your hands. It gets very strong. It feels almost like a magnetic field that is kind of pushing your hands away from one another. After a while it will feel like you're holding something inside your hands, like a ball of energy. So that's what we're aiming for here. Not everyone can feel this straight away, but if you do persist with this, you will definitely increase your ability to perceive this material. So do work on that. Once you've done that, the next thing you need to do is to ground yourself. So always prepare yourself before you start working with your client. To ground yourself, you simply touch the floor. Imagine that you've got roots from yourself going down into the earth, so it properly grounds you. Your client wants to be grounded as well, so get them to do the same thing. What I normally do with my clients is I'll go through a little bit of a progressive relaxation induction using some hypnosis, some guided visualization to get them to imagine roots going down into the earth and to really ground into this. The next thing we need to do is to connect with your client's higher self and ask permission to do the healing. Now, permission isn't always granted, and if the permission isn't granted from their higher self, you cannot continue. If that person needs to go through the experience in order to be able to learn a life lesson, and you interfere with that and give them some healing, then you're stopping this person from progressing on their life path. So sometimes permission isn't given, but that's quite rare. So to do this, you simply stand behind your client. Excuse me for going off camera for a moment. Put your hands on their shoulders like so, and just relax. And just imagine yourself connecting to their energy. And as you do this, just ask in your own mind, you don't have to say it out loud, permission to do the healing. And you'll kind of get a sense back, you'll get a feeling of either a yes or a no as to whether you can continue. Now normally that feeling comes down into your stomach or your chest. You get a nice light feeling in your chest, a very open feeling, that's permission to continue. If you get a heavy feeling in your stomach, normally that's telling you that you shouldn't continue with the healing. The healing process itself, you go through two stages. The first step is to balance and cleanse each of the main chakra points of the body. So you go up and down the body doing that, and then you go through the actual electrical system of the body. So I'm going to show you how to do this very quickly, but normally you'd spend a bit more time on this. So to start with, I'm just going to tilt the camera up a little. There we go. We'll start off with the crown chakra, so just above the person's head. And you'll put your hands either side. So you don't want to go over the top completely because that feels a little bit claustrophobic for your client. So have your hands either side and just imagine light energy coming down into you and going into your client. Now you can feel this. You'll be able to feel around their crown chakra how big or how small, or the rotation of the energy on the person there. And you'll also be able to tell whether or not you need to continue working in this area. When you start working with a person, you'll notice that you can feel the energy being released. So if there are some blockages in a certain area, you might feel that like a warmth, cool feeling. Sometimes you feel tingling. The way I feel it, everybody's different, I feel it like a little blow of cool air on my palm. So it's just like that. It feels like someone's blowing my hand. When I know I've released all the stagnant energy and I've moved all the blocks, that blowing sensation tends to stop and I know I can move on. Where I get this more than anything, on most people, usually around the throat centre, because a lot of people have problems with communication, and I also tend to get it a lot coming out of people's kneecaps when we go through the electrical system later. So you start off, connect with the shoulders, ask permission. Once you've got permission, you continue, move to the crown chakra, and just allow your energy to help that to balance, and just allow any blockages to be released. Then you want to move to one side. So I'm just going to go behind Natalie. And you're going to be working on the throat chakra. Now the throat chakra, in around the throat area, you want to put one hand either side, but I recommend you kind of lower your front hand a little bit because this feels very claustrophobic. To come in on someone's throat, it really, really feels claustrophobic. So kind of lower that a little bit. And as you do this, you can feel the energy coming out and blowing over the top of your hand. So you normally want to stay there until that blowing sensation stops, or it feels like it's time to move on. Next, move on down to the heart chakra. You can move in and out a little bit if you like, and you'll be able to feel where the energy, the boundaries of the energy in the person's aura. So just allow that to be balanced. Once you've done that, once you feel the blowing stop, move down to the solar plexus, then down into the sacral chakra, and then when you do the root chakra, you're going to put one hand under the chair and one hand over the top. So your hands are in this position, one hand here, then one hand underneath the chair like that. This is why we use a chair like this as opposed to using the couch. If you're going to use a couch and the person's lying down, they'll be lying on their back and you'll just hover your hands over the top like that for each chakra point. Try not to block them, so just from the sides. Once you've gone through the 7 main chakras of the body like that, you will take time on each one, allow all the blockages to be released, then you move through the electrical system. Now, the way you do this, you want to do both sides of the person. You start here at the bottom of the spine, you move up the spine, along the shoulder, down the arm to the elbow, from the elbow to the wrist, from the wrist into the hand and the fingers, and then the energy comes out the fingers. Then you go back from the bottom of the spine along the hip, and then from the hip down the thigh to the knee, and it's at that point where you normally feel the energy coming out of the knee. Then you go down the knee to the ankle, down the ankle onto the foot, and then you go from the foot down into the floor. So you hold the person's foot down on the floor, and that helps to ground them. Now you do that process on both sides. You don't have to go over the spine both times because you've done it once on the first one. What I find really helps on the spine, if you start off with both hands like this at the bottom of the spine and just allow yourself to put some energy into there. So just imagine you've got light coming out of your hands going into the spine, and then slowly rotate your hands like so, and then just drag one hand up and imagine you're pulling a channel of light up the spine as you do this. Your hands don't have to touch. The only time you ever have to touch the person is at the beginning where you connect with them to ask permission. So with your hands in this position, top and bottom of the spine, just imagine that light is flowing into you, into your heart, from the source of all that is, whatever it is that you believe, coming out of your hands and connecting between your hands. So I could almost push the light up and down by doing this. And as I'm doing that, I'm clearing Natalie's spine. So it's clearing out any blockages that are all along this area. If you feel like there are some strong blocks in there, you can come back down and push that up again. And it really feels as though you're stretching that light up. So this is an area where I spend quite a bit of time. A lot of people have a lot of blockages in the spine. Once you've done that, and you've got this column of light down at the spine, I find it really helps to then bring your lower hand up like this, clearing all the way through as you do until they both meet at the top. Then take one hand out across one of the shoulders. So if I can show you on this side, one hand at the end of the shoulder and one hand at the centre here. So we're now working on this part of the electrical system. And again, you imagine energy going from one hand to the other. If you need to, you can brush that out. Normally you don't need to, you can just stay in place. But just imagine that energy going through. Now, as I'm positioned here at the moment, I can feel air blowing onto my left hand. So it's coming out of this area just here. And I know that when that stops blowing, this piece will be clear. So I'll know that I can then move on to the next section. When you move on, move your back hand to meet your front hand, and then move your front hand down to the next point. So in this case, that's the elbow. We'll stay there for a while until we've cleaned that out. Then we'll move down to the elbow with the back hand and move the front hand over to the wrist. Once you get to the wrist, one hand on the wrist, then one hand down on the fingers, and do the same thing. When you get down onto the hand, put both hands over the top of the hand and imagine that the energy is coming out of their fingertips. Now, you might be able to see this, and I will advise, when you're working with a client, if at all possible, have them wear white clothing, because it'll be a lot easier for you to see the energy as it leaves their body. You might see it as light, you might see it as colour. A lot of people see it as almost like smoke coming off the body. Once you've gone down one arm, you can, if you want to, go to the other side, move along the shoulder and down the other arm, or you can stay on that first side and go and do the hip and the leg. So you'd repeat over the other side. If you come down to the hip, you'll start in the very centre at the back there, and then come out to the side of the hip. Now this area, if the person is of any age, and they're going to have problems with arthritis, that kind of thing, you'll feel a lot of blockages in this area. So sometimes you need to spend a long time here. It's also where a lot of energy is collected. So you want to clear that out. As soon as you feel that that feels like it's flowing more freely, get your back hand, catch up with your first, and then move your front hand to the knee so that we can clear out the thigh. Same principle as the arms. You move up to the knee with your back hand, front hand goes down to the ankle, back hand goes down. Now it makes it a lot smoother and a lot easier if you kind of cup your hand, so this is the front of the knee, and you cup your back hand behind the ankle, and then your front hand comes down in front of the ankle onto the foot like so, and then your back hand round, and then you cup over the foot. It makes it easier and it flows better. Once you've finished and you get to the feet, kneel down in front of the person and just place your hands on top of their feet and just imagine the energy going from the crown chakra of the person all the way down through their body, through their feet, and all the way down into the earth, so really, really grounding them. After the session, you can close down by standing behind the person again, putting your hands on their shoulders. Have the person ground themselves as they did before, and they might need to drink a glass of water afterwards if they feel a little bit lightheaded. But also incredibly important, once you've finished the healing, you need to transmute the energy, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you understand the violet flame, you can send the energy to that. If you don't understand the way the violet flame works, then what I'd recommend is to put the energy into the earth. Now the way you do this, palms open, put them flat on the ground, and just imagine all the energy that you've taken goes into the earth and it becomes transmuted so it can be used somewhere else. If you don't do that, there is the possibility that you can take illnesses away from that person into yourself, or you can lower your own energy or diminish your own energy, that kind of thing. So really remember to transmute the energy at the end and get rid of any energy. What some people do is they kind of flick the energy off themselves and that kind of thing. It isn't really necessary. As long as you're using your intention, you can focus the energy wherever you want to just by pushing it down. Imagine it going down into the earth. The earth transmutes it and it just ends up somewhere else. Once you've gone through those two steps, going through all the chakras, going through the energy system, the electrical system of the body, what you should then do is use your own intuition to judge if you need to return to any places. So if there's something you've got to go back to an area. If there's something that needs a little bit more attention, if you feel drawn to somewhere, if you feel like you need to make contact and put your hands on the person, you can do that. But the standard method that you'll use just works inside the aura of the person. Usually what happens next, over the next couple of days, the work that you've done filters down into the physical level, so that within the next morning the person is generally going to feel a lot better. The morning after that one, a couple of days later, all of these energies are filtered down into the physical body and now tend to feel a lot better by then. So normally it takes a while for these things to have an effect. But generally it helps with people's sleep, it helps all kinds of illnesses and ailments, and it just gives someone a sense of well-being because it balances them and just gets everything moving as it should be, so the energy system is working right. So that's about all. One thing that I'll also say, before you do any of the healing, you can call in any guides, any ascended masters, anything that you believe can help you. So a lot of people do that. And what Natalie does when she's healing people, quite often she'll be working on an area on a person, and all of a sudden she'll get a flash of light and a huge amount of healing will come in at one go from a higher source, and she knows at that point that the healing has taken place, it's all done, and she can move on to the next area. I don't get that. I tend to much more feel the energy moving around through the body, and I feel the blockages breaking down gradually over time. So it's a little bit different for each person. The way you perceive the energy will be a bit different, but the most common ones, warmth or tingling or coolness on the palm of your hands, and very often you'll feel like it feels like a breeze, almost as though there's a draft coming from somewhere. When I first started doing this, we learnt how to do these techniques in a church hall, which was drafty. So for a while we didn't realise that was the energy we were feeling, but if you do this in a closed room where there's no draft, it's nice and warm, you notice that blowing out onto your palms. It's a really odd feeling, but it's good encouragement that something's going on. So that's it. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below and I'll see what I can do to help. Take care and bye-bye.